This be the tale of the seal dogs, a daring crew of swashbuckling mates who set sail on a 7-day escapade through the beguiling waters of the US and British Virgin Islands. Their trusty vessel, the Grand Bally 5-4 catamaran known as Ithaca, bore their motley crew: Aquaman, Spicy Bow, Captain, Flash, the Lit, the Brit, and Coco. With Captain Nate at the helm and Chef Abby crafting feasts fit for pirates, the stage was set for an adventure worth singing shanties about. Their journey began in the bustling harbour of Crown Bay Marina on St. Thomas, where the salty air mingled with the thrill of what lay ahead. After a feast of pulled pork sandwiches, they watched as Ithaca's crew made the final preparations. By late afternoon, Ithaca cast off her lines, leaving the marina in her wake as she ventured toward Maho Bay on St. John. The sea was fierce that day, and the seal dogs had their first clash with the infamous northerly, that unruly north wind, a blustery foe that would challenge them time and again on their voyage. But no wind could dampen the spirits of this hearty lot, who welcomed each gust as another test of their mettle. With St. Thomas to port and a curtain, a rain on the horizon, the waves tossed Ithaca, but the seal dogs clung to their sea legs and their sense of adventure. By dusk, they secured a spot in Maho Bay, claiming one of the last mooring balls as the sun bid them good night. Under the fiery glow of sunset, they indulged in charcuterie, grog, and laughter, their camaraderie setting the tone for the days ahead. Aye, this be but the beginning of their grand tale. The next chapter in the tale of the seal dogs unfurled as the morning sun rose like a golden doubloon, casting its warm light over the calm, glassy waters of Maho Bay. One by one, the crew emerged from their berths, stretching their sea legs and drinking in the tranquil beauty that surrounded them. The bay lay still, like a secret treasure chest, its jewels revealed in the early light. After breaking their fast on a meal fit for Neptune himself, the seal dogs hoisted the sails, guiding Ithaca toward the fabled shores of Jost Van Dyke. The northerly wind, that relentless old mariner, blew steady upon their backs, urging them onward to new horizons and untold tales. By early afternoon, Ithaca was moored snug in Great Harbour. With a spring in their step, the seal dogs loaded into the dinghy and made for the island's handy shores. Their first port of call, Foxy's, the legendary beach bar where the rum flows as freely as the sea breeze, and tales of the high seas are spun round every table. Yet a quiet mystery lingered in the air, as if the island herself was dreaming of days gone by, wrapped in the charm of forgotten tides. Having had their fill, the seal dogs set a course for White Bay, climbing hills that offered views so grand, even a pirate with a heart of stone would be moved to tears. The descent brought him to the sands of White Bay, where the famed Soggy Dollar Bar awaited. There, amidst the sway of palms and the laughter of fellow wanderers, they discovered the true magic of the painkiller, a potion of coconut cream, pineapple juice, orange juice, and a hearty dose of rum that had 'em feeling as light as a seabird on the wing. With drinks in hand, the crew took in the sights of the lively beach, the rhythm of the waves, the chatter of fellow sailors, and the sun casting golden reflections on the water, as if the sea itself was raising a toast to their adventure. As the sun surrendered to the horizon, painting the harbour in shades of fiery gold and crimson, the seal dogs made their way back to Great Harbour. It was a sunset that could have been forged in the very depths of Poseidon's own realm, leaving them in awe as they hiked back to their floating sanctuary. Aboard Ithaca, the night came alive with clinks of mojitos and margaritas, their laughter and yarns echoing through the cabin like the joyous calls of seabirds at dawn. As they toasted to the day's exploits and laid plans for the next, the seal dogs knew they were living a tale most only dream of. Aye, this was the life, the kind that seeps into your bones, making ye a creature of the sea, forever craving the salt air and the thrill of the unknown. The next day dawned bright, with the seal dogs gathering for a hearty breakfast, fueling up for another day of high seas adventure. With the sun climbing higher and the taste of salt on the breeze, they bid farewell to Great Harbour and set a course for the rugged shores of Tortola. The northerly, ever the unruly trickster, whipped up choppy waters as Ithaca pressed on, her crew lounging about the deck, sharing stories and taking in the ever-changing blues of the Caribbean. By late morning, they dropped anchor in the tranquil embrace of Brewer's Bay, a serene hideaway where the waters, though a touch murky, teemed with marine wonders. With snorkels strapped and fins at the ready, the crew plunged into the depths, drifting over coral beds and darting fish, losing themselves in the magic of the sea. Having had their fill of the deep, the seal dogs clambered back aboard Ithaca, where a Greek-themed feast awaited them. Savory chicken meatballs and all the fixins to satisfy a crew with appetites as mighty as their spirits. With a tang of feta and spices still lingering on their tongues, they stretched out beneath the midday sun, letting the gentle sway of the ship lull them into contentment. But the sea, ever calling, beckoned them onward, with bellies full and the thrill of discovery pulling at their souls. They hoisted anchor once more, leaving behind the sheltered embrace of Brewer's Bay and venturing back out into the deep blue. The waves rolled steady beneath them as they charted a course toward Guana Island, a speck of paradise awaiting a home on the horizon, promising yet another chapter in their grand adventure. With Ithaca moored offshore, the crew piled into the dinghy and made for the pristine sands of Guana's private beach, a hidden gem where the water shimmered like liquid sapphire and the land felt untouched by time. They snorkeled along the shore, spying all manner of aquatic life, schools of fish dancing in the shallows, curious rays gliding beneath them, and coral formations stretching like secret castles of the deep. The beauty of this secluded paradise left even the most seasoned sailors among them in awe, a beach so fine it may well be the grandest they'd ever laid eyes upon. As the day gave way to dusk, the crew returned to Ithaca, where deck showers washed away the salt of the sea, and aperitifs were served on the flybridge, a toast to another day well spent. With a steady hand at the helm, Captain Nate guided Ithaca round to Monkey Point, their sanctuary for the night. Under a sky spattered with 1,000 stars, they gathered once more for a feast. Thai curry, a cherished favorite among the crew. With full stomachs and satisfied souls, they settled in, the gentle rocking of the boat lulling them towards slumber, the whispers of the sea singing them into dreams of the adventures yet to come. Despite a rocky night, the seal dogs awoke with the call of adventure still strong in their souls, shaken off the restless seas and ready to embrace another day's exploits. Wasting no time, they grabbed their snorkels and plunged into the waters of Monkey Point, where the sea teemed with life, curious creatures peeking from coral nooks and the ever-present mystery of the deep surrounding him. By mid-morning, Ithaca was underway, her sails catching the steady breeze as she glided past the rugged shores of Tortola and Great Kamanoo, cutting through the deep blue toward their next port, Virgin Murda's famed North Sound. As they approached, the site of the Bitter End Yacht Club came into view, a legendary haven for sailors and wanderers alike. They secured a mooring ball in the pristine waters nearby, then gathered for a lively taco feast aboard Ithaca, laughter and tales flowing as freely as the sea breeze. Soon after, a familiar sight approached, a small boat, the famed Rum Runner, helmed by a seafaring soul who knew the importance of a well-made drink. With a wave and a grin, he delivered his namesake concoction alongside his faithful hound Francis, ensuring the seal dogs had their fill of the island's finest refreshment. With rum in their bellies and the spirit of the sea coursing through their veins, they clambered into the dinghy and set forth to explore the Bitter End. Ashore, they wandered the yacht club, taking in the sights of a place steeped in nautical lore. But it wasn't long before Aquaman and the Brit were lured by the call of the wind and waves, setting sail aboard a Hobie Cat wave, eager to test their seamanship against the gusts. The sea, however, had mischief in mind. As the wind caught the sail just right, or perhaps just wrong, the little catamaran heaved, tipped, and with a mighty splash capsized, sending both sailors into the drink. With a thrill of the day settling into a slower rhythm, the crew returned to Ithaca for a lazy afternoon of reading and napping, the gentle lull of the sea coaxing him into well-earned rest. As the sun dipped low, the evening began with appetizers on deck, the golden glow, a twilight shimmering on the water, the grand finale, a trip to the vibrant Saba Rock, where fine food, island revelry, and a bit more exploration rounded out another perfect day in the life of the seal dogs. The next day began with a hearty breakfast of avocado toast, crispy bacon, and fresh fruit, fueling the seal dogs for yet another day of high seas adventure. As Ithaca slipped her lines and set sail from the Bitter End, the morning sky played a game of its own, one moment showering the sea in warm sunlight, the next misting the deck with a light rain. Off the starboard side, Necker Island stood proud in the distance, a reminder of the riches and legends scattered throughout these waters. As they neared Devil's Bay, a rainbow arched across the sky, a welcome sign from the sea gods themselves. With a prime mooring secured, the crew plunged into the clear blue and swam ashore, where the mighty granite boulders of the baths rose like ancient sentinels guarding hidden treasures. They hiked through the labyrinthine caves and tide pools, marveling at the natural splendor carved by wind and wave. Time slowed as they explored, scrambling over rocks, posing for group pictures, and taking in the awe-inspiring beauty that surrounded them. When hunger called, they made their way to the top of the baths, where a feast awaited with panoramic views stretching as far as the eye could see. With bellies full and spirits high, the crew set off on the return hike. But the call of the sea was too strong to ignore. A snorkel session followed, and it was nothing short of spectacular. Some of the finest of the trip, with crystal clear waters and marine life in every direction, as if the ocean itself had rolled out the red carpet. In the afternoon, Ithaca hoisted sail once more, passing the rugged outcrops of fallen Jerusalem and Salt Island, her course set for the calm embrace, a little harbour on Peter Island. The bay, a peaceful refuge, offered the perfect playground for paddleboarding, swimming, and exploring the ruins of an old estate, its weathered stone walls whispering tales of days long past. As the sun dipped low, the seal dogs gathered on deck with boat drinks in hand, raising a toast to another legendary day. The galley produced a feast fit for kings, juicy ribeye steaks, creamy mashed potatoes, and honeyed carrots that could tempt even the most hardened pirate. But the night was far from over. With spirits high and the stars overhead, the crew launched into a raucous round of karaoke, belting out classics like Sweet Caroline and Bohemian Rhapsody for all the sea to hear.
Watching you, Sweet Caroline, ba ba ba. The times never seem so good. So good, so good, so good. I've been inclined dun, 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 to believe they never would.
There's those exotic moves. See him, David. Come on.
Sweet Caroline, dun, dun, dun.
Aye, the winds had carried him far, but it was the laughter, the camaraderie, and the sheer joy of the journey that made this night one to remember. The penultimate day of their grand voyage began with the sweet aroma of French toast casserole and crispy bacon filling the galley as Ithaca hoisted anchor and set sail for Norman Island's Privateer Bay, first making a stop at the legendary Indians, a remarkable snorkeling sanctuary rising from the depths like ancient sentinels of the sea. Upon arrival, the crew wasted no time diving into the crystal waters, where a world of vibrant coral reefs unfurled beneath them. Schools of fish flitted through the sun-dappled blue, while a lucky few caught sight of a nurse shark, lazily cruising the depths like a silent watchman of the deep, with masks full of wonder and hearts still pounding from the thrill. The seal dogs climbed back aboard and sailed onward to Treasure Point, where legend whispered through the very rocks. The crew snorkeled through the dark, storied caves, their minds wandering to the pirates of old, who once hid their treasures in these very waters, perhaps even inspiring Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island. Aye, the ghosts of buccaneers past surely lingered here. The afternoon unfolded at a more leisurely pace, as the crew inflated their floating island, a great bobbing oasis where they could lounge, drift, and let the gentle roll of the waves cradle them into bliss. Meanwhile, the more adventurous among them took to the seas with water skis strapped to their feet, testing their mettle against the rolling tide. With the boat gunning forward, the skiers carved across the glassy surface, some riding the wake with the finesse of a dolphin dancing at dawn, others meeting the sea with spectacular splash-filled tumbles. The scene was something to behold. Weaving between anchored sailing yachts at the anchorage, the seal dogs cut across the water like seafaring daredevils, leaving a trail of spray in their wake. If the pirates of years past could lay eyes on this lot now, they'd either tip their tricorns in admiration or shake their heads in disbelief at what had become of these waters. As the sun began its descent, painting the sky in hues of lime and coconut, the seal dogs gathered aboard Ithaca for their final dinner at sea. The night's feast was a grand affair, pad thai with just the right kick, followed by delicate poached pears that left 'em all satisfied yet wistful for the week gone by. With the stars glittering overhead like scattered doubloons, the crew spent their final hours on deck, reflecting on the journey, swapping stories, and taking in the vast beauty of the endless sea. One last night aboard, one last toast to adventure, and one last promise this would not be their final voyage. The group awoke to a tranquil morning in Privateer Bay, taken in the sights of the other vessels nestled in the anchorage, their masts swaying gently with the tide. The sea stretched out calm and inviting, yet the day ahead promised their longest sail yet, a grand voyage leaving behind the British Virgin Islands and charting a course back to familiar waters in the US Virgin Islands. With the wind at their backs, they bid farewell to Norman Island and set forth into the deep blue, bound for St. John. This was true open water sailing, the kind that stirs the soul, the rhythmic rise and fall of the swells, the satisfying pull of the sails, and the ever-changing hues of the Caribbean. The vast expanse of sea surrounded 'em, but St. John stood steadfast on the starboard side, its lush hills rolling along the horizon like a painted masterpiece. With the spray on their faces and the sun casting a golden shimmer upon the waves, the seal dogs spent the journey in fellowship, sharing stories, reflecting on the adventure, and soaking in the last great sail of the trip. After what felt like a voyage fit for true seafarers, Ithaca glided into Cruz Bay, where the group cleared customs, officially returning to U.S. waters. With passports stamped and the scent of island spices in the air, they set out to explore the charm of Cruz Bay, a town that held memories from adventures past. A return to high tide, a favourite haunt from their 2020 voyage, was in order, where they raised a glass to old times anew. From there, they strolled through the lively streets, collecting trinkets and souvenirs for the ones awaiting their return back home. With the afternoon still young, the crew hopped in the dinghy, making their way to Scott Beach Bay, part of the pristine Canil Bay. Their final afternoon was spent ashore, where the antics turned up a notch, running barefoot across the sand, splashing in the shallows, and diving head first into the joys of island living one last time. The rum flowed freely, toasts were made, and the laughter of shipmates rang out across the bay. As the sun dipped low, they gathered on the shore, drinks in hand, watching as the sky erupted in hues of fire and gold, the kind of sunset that stays etched in the soul long after the journey ends. Back aboard Ithaca, the final feast awaited, a ridiculous, indulgent lobster dinner fit for a band of victorious mariners returning from a legendary voyage. Tales were spun, glasses clinked, and bellies were filled as they marked the perfect end to an adventure that would live on in their hearts long after the anchor was finally dropped. The final morning aboard Ithaca was bittersweet, the sea calling 'em still, yet the sands of time demanding their return to shore. After one last breakfast on deck, the crew packed their belongings, each item a reminder of the adventure that had unfolded. The lines were lifted, and Ithaca headed out of Scott Beach Bay, leaving behind the quiet sanctuary of Canil Bay and heading for the journey's end. As they made their way back to Yacht Haven Grand on St. Thomas, the seal dogs drank in the final sights of the turquoise waters, the lush green hills rolling past, and the salty air that had become their home. This was a moment to savour, the last stretch of open sea, the feel of the helm beneath their hands, and the wind that had carried 'em across these sturried isles. Upon arrival at the marina, the final task was upon 'em, offloading the boat, taking their sea legs ashore, and bidding farewell to Ithaca, their floating haven. Yet, as their feet touched the dock, their hearts remained tethered to the sea, filled with gratitude for the adventures shared. Over 7 days, they charted a course of 93 nautical miles, not merely crossing waters, but diving headfirst into the unknown, embracing the wonders of the sea with a spirit of adventure and camaraderie. Their voyage through the Virgin Islands was far more than a mere vacation. It was a celebration of friendship, discovery, and the simple joys of a life well lived upon the waves. Aye, this crew be blessed. And though the land may call 'em home, the sea will forever be in their souls. As they prepared for life back on the hard, the crew bid their final farewells, not with sadness, but with the quiet certainty that this would not be their last voyage. Aye, these scallywags will sail again.